One thing I like about working small is simply that I have more direct control over everything. I've never found filmmaking to be very complicated, and it always has seemed to me to be something that an individual can do. You can make personal films, and I, as a craftsman, like to be involved in the art department and in the camera and in the sound and in the music, and
He's up here.
sometimes it's better to work in a small way.
Clear down. At least about a 20-foot drop to the bottom.
If he did just what you just did, that's fine. But I don't know if he'd go that. We need to go that far.
It's just a resource.
It's just great art direction. This CVA.
Yeah.
This is to look like a digital image. That's the water.
Okay, very good.
Wow, that's a nice exposure. It'll never be this wide. I just,
What happens if
the, kind of conversation, awkward water, Sabrina in the water. The girl looking in at Jack taking a piss, could be from here. The girl reading.
Those are both day, right?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. We will see them making love.
It came out of this general feeling I thought was quite popular. A lot of people were feeling at the same time that this excessive branding and marketing of like everything in our lives seemed to be kind of prepackaged, and everything we associate with, taking like revolutionary songs from the 60s and putting them over sneaker commercials for manufacturers who are kind of big corporate monsters. Everything just feels so calculated. Whenever I see an advertisement for computers or something, like these people are smiling and because they have this computer and their lives are good. Making a science fiction story too sort of allowed me to touch on a lot of subjects briefly, not in such depth. I really did want to make a movie that celebrated the beauty of sensual existence as well.
We won't see the chairs in this shot. I think they're best out there. We won't look in that part of the
Okay.
Where's that cleaner?
There's no dialogue.
Thank God. The camera's there, so kind of looking at that building. And then you do a little waving. Okay. The only thing I do is might have you walk up this way or back that way.
Which filters?
No, maybe if we are lower, we see the tops of the buildings and the water towers and stuff. It might give a bit more. Might also give us a bit of the white hot that we like.
Yeah, a little bit to your left.
Oh, that was
Split the difference.
No, that's good. I mean, that's very good right there.
Back to where you
Gotcha. I think it's time to bring in some Bradford. Yeah, kind of falling into the shot.
Do you have those binoculars, Nick?
Yeah.
So, lower them, right? Action, Tatiana.
And you just concentrate on it. Action.
Maybe not. Your heart is too much here.
Maybe.
Come with me. Try. Maybe two of us. trying together at once.
Just let action.
It's not
Y
possible.
tus trailers. Visita mi canal.
I have to go home.
You can't.
I will try.
I've tried. I failed. You'll die.
Maybe not. Your heart is too much here.
Maybe.
Come with me. Try. Maybe two of us. Try together.
That's good.
Come around. Computer, come around, get down quick.
Okay. As I come around, get down. Quick.
Yeah, don't do this. Don't stand.
Sure.
And then come down. And come down and also orientate yourself so you're your favorite camera. Yeah. And then
the ache of being human, being fallible, of being vulnerable, of being foolish, of being a fool for love, these are the things that he, I feel, distills down to their just those elements. One of the reasons I'm interested in these things is because I think that what it communicates, something very particular about these times right now, that if you look at this work perhaps 50 years from now, I think that this will say more about what's going on right now than a lot of other things.
Sound speed?
take 3. Action. But like from right here.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Sabrina, is it okay if you just kind of shake your hair out a little because you've been in prison? Just because it's conscious about, it's the same manner. Your voice louder.
Okay.
Although you do-
Over the,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people talking?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're going to put, okay, that's something you'll put in, like,
Yeah.
okay.
Feels good.
Uh-huh.
I don't have the headphones.
Yeah, okay.
That's okay.
That one.
Yeah, we'll have, I like the mirror. 4 and 5. Circle 4 and 5. And 5 is the one Bill likes. Bill likes.
You don't have to do much because he's done it all for you. It's all there. It's all written, and it's, the words are very strong and very beautiful, and visually he's an amazing filmmaker. So he really sets the picture, the painting. I think of every shot he does very much like a canvas, and with dancers, and I feel like I'm a dancer and he's choreographed a piece. So it's done. He's choreographed it. I just have to go in and play my role. And I find myself, I read a script a lot while I work, and each time I read it, I feel like I find more music in it. She wants to find peace and happiness. For her, sex is, this is the game I now play. This is how I do this. This is my next step in this. But where's the feeling? Where's the emotion? And William brings that back to her. Well, Jack brings it to her, and then William just takes it a little bit further, so she gets to, I think, feel touch again, feel what that really feels like to be touched, and once she feels that, she wants it more, like a drug.
I gotta see the and then William revealing himself down. He comes up, and then maybe, they can
You get like this psycho jump off the
facilitate shot up there. Up there.
I mean, we could go up there, and if we use a ladder or something, we just put people up there or something. I don't think she would want people traipsing through.
Yeah. I think that works.
But that's this time of year, the sun's pretty low. You only get a little bit in the morning. It's not a flashy, effects-driven science fiction film, but it's a film of ideas, which most good science fiction is. It's a social commentary, which a lot of science fiction is.
those are pretty much what they.
And then he'll come in and we'll sort of go through it and talk about it, and I'll try to get connected. You know, of course, I've had a lot of years to get inside of Hal's head, and I think that our rhythms and sensibilities are very consistent.
He has a very clear picture of what it is that he's going after, what he wants, and it's just a very streamlined way he has of getting there. But he's at the same time he's flying more by the seat of his pants in a way too, because he's much more willing to mix it up and try something, shoot from the hip, and he said once, "I have a plan in case I get any ideas."
It's a movie about today set in the future. It's a movie about today's society set in the future. I don't know. It's strange to grow up today. But I don't think it's probably no stranger than it was, you know, in the 70s or even in the 50s or 20s. I mean, I think with every generation has their problems, you know. It's just insane to think that we're not maybe educating ourselves with every generation, learning from our mistakes. And that's where you can go nuts about politics and talk for hours. And but I think how a movie kind of like says maybe this is a direction we're going in if we don't change things today.
Okay, so this will be. Lift the thing off your head. Let's put it on the table.
Oh, so she comes to me, I don't go to her.
Yeah, she stays where she is.
So I walk over with this thing on?
No, I think you just take it off. Put it on you. You start taking it off.
But do I ever get out of the scene?
We won't watch you get out of it, but we will.
So all the way through, should be closer all the way to the end.
Action.
He knows what he wants, and that's fine. I think that's. It's hard to find that level in a director of like being loose, but still having the confidence to be able to say exactly what you want. Because sometimes
Maybe you should hide something.
I think actors need that confidence in directors, like to hear what they want and to kind of collaborate in getting that. You know. I think he has a rhythm. You know, that's like his thing. It's like he knows how it should play in his head, and you know when I started doing this film, because it's on DV, I was like, where are all the extra cameras? Like, this thing's so cheap. Like, why don't we have like 4 cameras rolling it every time? And they're like, no, Hal he has his one shot, you know, he has it shot for shot, you know. And I think it's pretty courageous on his behalf.
On count of 3, everyone starts leaning very slowly to the left. A lot of light now. Audrey, at the same time, very slowly turn your head to your right and reach up with your right hand as if to grasp something that's near the right of your head.
Right now?
Hold on. Maybe we'll start on her hand, Sarah. As your hand gets up near your head, that's when your head will turn to the right. Action, Audrey. Right. And cut. I'm going to ask all of you to do the same thing. Slowly lift your hands, your right hands, and now start turning your heads to the right, and now lower them and turn your heads left. Cut. All right.
Get cut.
And now just drop them.
It's true that Hal's blocking is extremely precise, more precise than anyone else that I've ever worked with. And so the camera work has to be equally precise. Once we do a take, if take 2 is different, it's a problem. And it's the same way with the actors blocking. if Hal tells an actor to say a line and then look down and then say the next line, that's the way that it has to be. And it's the same way with the camera movement and with what's in the shot. You know, all the framing, once we establish it, really has to be consistent. And the camera work has to respond to the actor's blocking and be just as precise. But I still think that we triumphed because we didn't try to be bigger than we were. We didn't try to dress big sets or light big sets. We tried to really concentrate on making each shot a great shot. And that was an idea that we had a long time ago when we first started talking about the movie in like 99 or 2000, was Hal called every shot like an exquisite miniature. That it wouldn't be a wide shot, but everything inside that one frame would be perfect.
And I'll call you. You'll come up to the wall, and on this, she'll be here. Come past her, and just hug this wall. Can we move that stand so we can see?
Is this foreground or no?
Yeah. I guess.
Keep it handy.
You're gonna go
That
there.
would probably want to bring it back.
You come forward. Yeah. And then the soldiers come out. And then you cast a glance back at the soldiers, perhaps the other way. And then back this way. And then the soldiers. You guys, a second later, and then you. Yeah, I'll call you during rehearsal. I'll just call you.
Go out and into the stairwell, right?
Right.
Okay guys, here we go, rehearsing.
And action, James. Cecile.
The first film I ever did was with Hal. It was a short that we did almost 10 years ago. So 10 years later, I've worked with him several times and I've had a lot more experience working with other people. So I feel like I feel like I'm more of a, dare I say, a peer. I can bring what I can do to the table.
You know, a lot of the theater that I've done is similar to, I think, the way that he works in terms of blocking or in terms of the specific, the details.
Well, I call Hal a choreographer, even though he smiles and gets embarrassed. But I think he has the mind for choreography. He's very aware of spatial relationships, foreground, background, composition in terms of framing. I mean, he's really careful about those choices.
You don't feel like you don't know what you're supposed to be doing. You know, you got your directions about, I want you here, I wanted the scene about this, and the movement is going to be this, and those things are specific.
And so what you get is a nice energy that's actually very active and isn't at all about, striking a pose.
I feel there's a very strong sense of space and rhythm, and so I identify with that as a choreographer very much so, because I approach choreography in the same way.
You get hit.
Boom, punch, punch, shoot. Maybe she could punch you. Punch.
And action.
I was looking for who's next!
Mr. Harley, do you remember a moment in which you decided to become a filmmaker?
I remember the period of time. I was at art school in Massachusetts, in Boston, Massachusetts, and I took a course in Super 8 filmmaking.
tus
I just remember the
trailers.
magic
Visita mi canal.
of capturing an image. And back then you had to wait for 2 weeks to get that image back from the lab. And there was just something that really, I'd spent most of my childhood and early adolescence drawing a lot and painting. I was always very visual. But it had never occurred to me to make pictures that moved, to make motion pictures. And so that's really, it took about 6 months, but then I really got infected by this desire to make moving pictures.
Can you name any filmmakers or any films that helped you to get to that point?
Back then, this was like 1978 in Boston. That film course was, it was at an art school, so the films tended to be real art films. I mean, Stan Brakhage, which often is not even motion pictures. Technically, he draws on films and stuff. But I remember being very moved by Maya Deren's work and Peter Hutton. Even films by Joseph Cornell, who used found footage. And I started making Super 8 movies of really little things, mostly, what was in my room, what was on my street. And it didn't take long before I started organizing these into stories. At the beginning I didn't even think of stories, but before long I was telling stories. And my teachers had to point that out to me. They even pointed out to me that my drawings were very narrative, that they told stories.
Was it clear for you from the very beginning that you would be making only independent films?
No, I never thought about independence or the opposite of independence. I just made the films I wanted to make. And I always did that, and then by the time the early 90s came along, there was this thing called independent American cinema, and before I knew it, people were telling me that I was, a representative independent American filmmaker. And it helped, it helped people put what I was doing in a category, I think, because I was definitely, it seemed, I had a hard time getting people to watch my films and understand how to appreciate them, because they seemed to be outside of a category. But once somebody invented this independent American category, it was okay. So I appreciated it.
But as you have just said, you have already become like a reference for new filmmakers. How do you feel about that?
I'm happy
if
an
influence.
No, if I could be a reference or an influence, that's great. If it's a good thing. I mean, it was helpful for me when I was younger to have examples of types of films that older people had made that kind of pointed in a direction. For me, it was like Werner Herzog was a big influence right at the beginning. Terrence Malick, and later on more. The new German cinema was a big influence for me by the time I got to film school, so in my early 20s.
When you're about to start shooting a new project, do you tend to look back into what you have already done?
No, I don't think so. I mean, sometimes I think this is the same with any kind of artist. Is that sometimes it's necessary to just turn around and look at what's in your studio. Just look at what you've done. Sometimes it gives you courage when you don't know how to move forward, because it's part of the day-to-day work of a creative person, is that you're, which is different than a craftsman. If I were simply a craftsman, I would know what I was doing. I'd get up in the morning and I'd craft the thing that
people are expecting me to craft. But art is different, and you're constantly investigating and trying new things out, and you're trying to find a way forward that's right for you at that time. And so there's a certain amount of anxiety all the time. And so sometimes it's important to look back on some of your films just to see, like, wow, I solved that problem,
tus trailers,
you know,
visita mi
15 years
canal.
ago, that way. And it's hard to put into words, but it just gives you like a little punch in the arm, pushes you forward.
Some filmmakers consider every single one of their films like a child of their own. Is that the same for you?
Yeah, I don't use that kind of language about it, children, but I understand where it comes from. I think Fellini said that first. Because you spend a lot of time with any film. It's usually like 2 years at least that you spend. And you have to make so many really heavy decisions. Everything's very important, so it really burns right into you a little bit.
When you decide that you want to film a new project, how do you start looking for the production money?
Well, I usually go to the distributors who have distributed my films in the past, and if they've been successful with some of my films, I show them the script. Now, I used to do that more in the 90s. It's a little bit different now. Films aren't on the level I make films in the, say, the $2 to $5 million range. That doesn't happen that much anymore. You need to go to a world sales agent and try to get them to invest based on what they think they can make from the rest of the world. So it's always stuff like that. For me, every single film I've made has been financed in a different method.
And there's a tendency in your films about working with the same actors in different projects.
Well, that tends to happen earlier in a person's career, as it did in mine. But it's really no different than, say, Scorsese's career. You know, the men and women who were acting with Scorsese in his earlier films tended to stick because I would assume it's similar to my situation. They understood what I was doing, and I understood that they could hear me when I was talking to them. And also, from me, I learned a lot about how to work with actors from these actors in my early years. But then as we go on, it's been 20 years now that I've been making films, it's less so.
Have you ever been offered to direct a mainstream project?
Pardon me?
Have you ever been offered to direct a mainstream project?
Yeah, after my first film, after my second film, before they realized I was serious about what I was doing. Which is not to criticize the more mainstream production methods, but yeah, I mean, they're always on the lookout for talented new people to come in and help them make the manufactured product that they do. So they would always, if they see somebody like me who made some tiny little film that got distributed and people liked it, got good reviews, of course they would come and take me to lunch and talk to me about it. But and they were great people, but we just didn't have anything in common. I mean, they didn't really. I would have made their lives miserable, really.
Have you stopped drawing?
Have I stopped drawing?
Yeah.
No, I still draw, but it's nothing serious. I sketch mostly while I'm directing.
But it's like, do you do your own storyboards?
Something like storyboards. It's a mix of, it's sort of like diagrams, and sometimes, mostly when it has to do with action, I'll do some pictures.
Is there any of your films that you would choose to erase from your past?
No. No, they're all of a they're all continuous, really. One leads into the other.
Lovely. What is a short film for you?
First, remind me, which short films are we discussing?
Theory of Achievement.
Okay, because those are back in the early 90s. All right. Short films are a place to experiment technically and even with subject matter a little bit. I've always noticed that people have a greater patience with short films, so you can be much more formally experimental. You can be weirder if you need to. And so I'd work out ideas both in dialogue and then making pictures in the short films.
Mm-hmm. But you know, here in Spain, at least, there's a theory that a short film is almost like a visit card, like something to prove that you are prepared for shooting a feature film. Do you agree with that concept?
I don't know about other filmmakers, but for me, no. The short films I made before I began to make features did not help me make features at all. Because they were not presenting anything that would indicate what a feature would be like if I made one. I made them as individual pieces of art by themselves, so knowing how long they were, saying 20 minutes or a half an hour, they were what they were. Yeah, what helped me make feature films was writing feature-length scripts. But I always wanted to continue making short films, as I always do, because making a feature usually takes a couple of years to get together. And I need to shoot more than that. I need to shoot each month, at least a little. So, because I need to practice. I don't want filmmaking to become theoretical.
But the way I remember it in the States is it's much easier to get like commercial distribution of short films than here in Spain, which normally they would only go to festivals.
Yeah, once I had a career as a feature film director, everybody was offering me small amounts of money to make short films. You know, European television often, American television back in the early 90s. And that was great. I mean, I used to do it with my own money, but then they'd give me a little bit of money to do something. Because there was so little money, they really didn't care. You know, they say, experiment, go ahead, because you have a reputation now as a quasi-famous indie something or other. You know, we can show this on TV and it's a good thing. So it was good for everybody. I got to work, they got to program it.
Now it's kind of funny that you've got a short film called Ambition. You don't look like an ambitious type at all.
Me? I'm terribly ambitious, actually. And that's what Ambition was about, actually. I had achieved a notoriety without becoming terribly famous, and suddenly in New York I wasn't allowed to shoot. I made very small films, but they got a lot of attention, and the unions would not let me shoot in the city anymore. And I had written this movie called Surviving Desire, which I wrote for New York City, and I wasn't allowed to I mean, the unions were saying that if you shoot in New York, we'll bother you. So it'll be a difficult thing for you to shoot. So I was like, why are they bugging me? I mean, I'm not the guy who's going to take work away from their union members, you know. But they said, they were very frank. They said, you are a bad example. And I was a bad example because I was ambitious, but I was ambitious for making work. I wasn't ambitious for getting rich and famous. But nevertheless, I had become a real poster child for independent cinema, and people started to say, well, Hal Hartley is still making non-union films in New York. So it was becoming a problem.
So when watching Ambition, the spectator could think that you are that character somehow of an alter ego of you.
I think no, different ones, because Ambition isn't really it's not a fiction, you know. It's like an essay. But a lot of those characters that show up in, it's only a 10-minute long film. They show up. They say things that come directly out of my notebooks. Everything everybody says in that come right out of my daily notebooks. That the man at the elevator. That's probably as close to me. He says, you know, whatever he says, but he's complaining that, you know, now that I'm successful, I have to work like 5 times harder than when I was unsuccessful. So, what is my ambition anyway?
Tus trailers. Visita mi canal.
In Theory of Achievement, there's like a motto in the whole film, which is love is a form of knowledge. Do you completely agree with that?
I don't know, that's a quote, you know, Theory of Achievement. All the lines in Theory of Achievement are quoted from different places. Yeah, generally, probably, yeah. I mean, love isn't just an urge. Sex is an urge, maybe, you know, and eroticism could be a mix of urge and thinking. But love is a form of knowledge, yeah. I can imagine, just think there's probably people who never have love, who never have love in their lives, because there's a certain thing about being a human being that they don't know about.
In certain points of this film, it comes as a conclusion for some of the characters, like in the end, what you gotta think is love is a form of knowledge. Do you think that could be the last thought
of Theory of Achievement? Perhaps. I mean, it sounds right. I never really questioned it too much. It sounded correct. That's probably why I wrote it down, wherever I got it. I don't know where I got it. It might be Rousseau, actually. Jean-Jacques Rousseau.
Okay. If you were to choose, because as I have just told you, Ambition and Theory of Achievement are the two short films that I'm going to be released. But if you were to choose your favorite short films directed by you, which ones would you choose to be released? Besides those two.
Besides those, well, some of the later ones. I like Kimono very much, and I had a very interesting experience with this one, which is now called Sisters of Mercy, which is footage that I found that back in 1993 or 1994, I was commissioned by somebody in New York to make a little piece, and I did it with Parker Posey and Sabrina Lloyd, 2 young actresses who I wanted to work with, and I just would. This is another reason why I make short films. It always gives me an opportunity to bring in some people I'm interested in, but I need to know more about, so I make some kind of low impact project. And that was a 3-minute piece that we made, but there was about 2 hours of footage, and I rediscovered it again in 2004, so like 10 years later I found all this footage, and I had just gotten my new laptop with Final Cut Pro, and I was teaching myself Final Cut Pro, and I thought, oh, I'll just use all this footage and I'll cut something together. And for a couple of months, I always had this footage on my computer and was playing around with it. And eventually I made this piece that I really quite like, which is now 16 minutes long, which is totally about these girls trying to do what I'm asking them to do. It's really almost a documentary of two actresses just trying to work. It's all the footage between the takes.
Sorry, trying to work or trying to fulfill the desires of the director?
Well, that's what the work is for an actor, is to try to, you know, embody what the director is talking about.
But do you think that that's only when they're beginning their career, that afterwards, you know, like with a big star?
Well, I don't know about big stars. I mean, I just know about actors, whether they're big stars or...
Well, sorry. You see what I mean? 'Cause, I mean, afterwards, like you have worked with Isabel Huppert.
Mm-hmm.
Does it work that way because it's a really big name?
Well, no, I probably couldn't have made something like Sisters of Mercy with Isabel. The time, not that she wouldn't be interested. I mean, I remember Isabel being incredibly interested in an experimental person. You could see the work she's done from the mid-90s on. I mean, she really finds the most challenging stuff to do, you know. No, but Sisters of Mercy came about much more locally.
What was the starting point in your mind for such a composed, structured story of the thriller?
Well, at first it wasn't. It was just a 1.5 hour or 20-minute long film. My friend and producer on that film, Ted Hope, had recently started his company, Good Machine, with James Seamus. And they had been talking to, I believe, HBO about a series of half-hour movies made by weird art directors like myself, whatever. There were many of us around in the early 90s. And of course, Ted and James were probably closest to all those kinds of people. So the idea was that Ted and James would organize all of us to make stories. And by the time Ted approached me, he said it would have to be something about, it probably became Sex in the City ultimately with HBO, because I remember them saying it has to be about sex in the city at night. And then it was like sex in the city, and then it was like no sex, just in the city, whatever. And it went on and on and on for months, and nothing really came of the whole project. But in the meantime, I had written this short script, which is the New York version of Flirt. And the project all fell apart, and then me and my the manager of my company, Jerry Brownstein, we decided to finance the short film, because I knew I would be making Amateur later in the year, and we would, in fact, we would be making Amateur and editing it on an Avid, on a computer, which in 1992, 1993 was a new thing. So we decided to make this short film anyway, with our own money, in order to learn the computer. And also, again, for me to get to know some new actors I hadn't worked with before. And so on the day we were shooting Flirt New York, we shot for 2 days. On one of those days, me and Mike Spiller, my cameraman, and Ted, my producer, were having lunch and talking about, we had a great time shooting that, and I think we were wondering what we could do with this film. And I suggested that we could probably make a story like this again and again and again, because it's just a situation comedy. And in fact, it's kind of neutral. We can make the same story with like say old people. The same script, but like with people in their 60s, and they're having the same sort of love triangle problem. Well, Ted took that idea and got very excited about it, and just kind of at a certain point just went off on his own and tried to raise money on that idea. And eventually it came to be 3 different cultures, distinct, American, European, Asian. And then I just kept looking for the widest variety as possible. Since New York was a heterosexual situation, and in Europe, in Berlin, we found money to make the film. So I said, well, let's make that a homosexual situation. And then when we got to Japan, I let the whole culture affect us. So it was a really interesting project, and I thought of them as 3 separate films. We really didn't think of it as a feature so much. Each film was completely finished before we made and Amateur was made in the middle, because we made New York, then we made Amateur, then we made Berlin, and then we made Japan. So the whole exercise was sort of to take that script and go to a different culture and learn about that culture, that milieu.
But it's like, because obviously New York is like the biggest metropolis ever in the last century and a half. What made you think of Berlin as representative of Europe, or Tokyo as representative of Asia?
Well, first I just thought of continents, North America, Europe,
Y tus
Asia.
trailers, visita
And
mi
then,
canal.
Yeah, it had to do with money, where the money came from. There were people in Germany and in Berlin who, there wasn't any other representative city in Germany, to my thinking, sort of like to compare New York and Tokyo and Munich. No, that wouldn't work. New York, Tokyo, Cologne, not really.
Has it got something to do with the wall being there? The wall of Berlin.
The wall? No, it hadn't to do with the wall, and it was after that.
No,
shut
no,
it.
I know,
Yeah.
but like because it's been like a huge symbol of.
Yeah, no, it wasn't that. It was it's a world city. Berlin is a world city, but it's also distinctly German and European.
Had you already visited those places before shooting there?
I had been in Berlin at least once, I think, doing publicity, but I didn't really know it. I spent a long time there, like 6 weeks, 8 weeks, I think, before we really started production. Yeah.
The casting process for the shooting in the other 2 cities, was it difficult?
It was more difficult in Japan, where their manner of their business is very different. I found in Berlin people made movies pretty much the way we made movies in New York, and found a casting director and a producer, and they introduced me to all these great actors in Berlin and who were interested in working in English. And in Japan, the thing was that the hardest thing in Japan was finding Miho, because I remember telling Ted, about a year before, I said, if we're doing, Flirt, and we're going to do it in Tokyo, we have to find the girl who's in Tokyo Decadence. So he worked on it, and he couldn't really find who that was. And then when we were shooting in Berlin, we were shooting in this living room on Wielandstrasse. We were shooting the opening sequence of the Berlin section. And I remember Ted, whoever's apartment that was a film producer, and there were like this stack of, I think, Cada de Cinema. And he came over with a volume, and he pointed to an advertisement for the soon-to-be-released VHS of Tokyo Decadence, and the girl's name was there. Miho Nakaido was written there. So he wrote it down, and I wrote it down. And I said, when we go to Tokyo, we have to try to find this girl. Because I thought the film was great, but her performance was really one of the most heavy things I'd seen in years back then. But when we got to Tokyo, we had a really hard time finding her. And the production company we were first working with didn't want to be associated with Tokyo Decadence. It was sort of like Tokyo Decadence had been such a scandal in the Japanese society, I guess. Do you know this film? It's a great film by Ru Murakami, who's a novelist who made this movie, and it's very sexual. It's pretty explicit, but what pretty much what it says about particularly Japanese men and their fantasy lives and stuff was pretty.
What's the title again?
Tokyo Decadence.
Tokyo Decadence.
Yeah. Anyway, so.
Can I Amazon it? Can I Amazon it?
Oh, definitely. It's a pretty famous film. And so Miho was the star of this film. So we couldn't get anybody to help us find her. And then our friend Nogami, who had been like assistant director for and script supervisor for Kurosawa since like before the war, she was like had more energy than anybody we met in Japan, and she was she trusted me. She said, if this guy is saying that this girl who's in Tokyo Decadence is the right kind of girl, because I had seen hundreds of girls, but we wanted this one, and she went out and she found this girl, Miho Nikaido, who's now my wife, making music for a radio station in Shibuya, because she wasn't really an actress all the time. She was a dancer, and she had done Tokyo Decadence kind of almost, it just came to her. She hadn't really pursued it. And she was great. So that was it.
See it. Do you think it's right if one of my conclusions after watching Freud is that it doesn't matter really how do you express it, feelings are the same all over the world?
Yeah, and particularly that crisis of conscience that happens when people have to make a choice, where that's really what it was, that...
sorry, we were talking before about the difference between sex or feelings. But in the end, as for me, I think sex is one way to get out our feelings.
Yeah, but there's not much decision making in sex. You just feel it. It's an urge. But commitment, and I think that's what flirt really deals with.
Mm-hmm.
When everybody gets, well, most people get to a place in their life where they feel like they need to make a commitment to another person. And I'm just interested in that dynamic. And
okay. So let's go for the girl from Monday.
Okay.
Why from Monday?
Why from Monday? I don't know. I think I just like the music of the title in English, The Girl from Monday. I grew up with a television show called The Man from U.N.C.L.E. And then there's a novel called The Man Who Was Thursday, an English novel. It's about it's sort of a spy thing. It's a code. But there's just something there's a little bit of dialogue in the movie too, where I think the other girl, Sabrina's character, Cecile, is explaining to the girl from Monday what Monday is, what it means. She says it's the beginning of the week. It's a new start. So it's a little bit of a metaphor.
But it's like for the working class, normally Monday it's like it's got a negative connotation, like another Monday.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for me it was the same. I love to go to work, so Monday's exciting.
It's funny because is it right for me to say that in this film is the one you really tried harder to get into a woman's mind?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, comparing it to... I mean, I've always liked trying to express what a woman might be feeling, because I know there's this interesting thing that happens when a man is trying to understand a woman, and so I never try to disguise that. I always write that way, and it can often be quite funny, but also revealing. Hopefully both.
Would you say that women are more interesting than men?
Well, they're more mysterious for me, yeah. And maybe that might not even be a good thing, you know.
Because
if I were mysterious to myself, more mysterious to myself, maybe I'd make a greater effort to understand myself more or something. I don't, you know. But, or of course, the age-old problem is that a man could put a woman on a pedestal and treat her as an object, you know, because she's mysterious, and the mysteriousness is interesting in and of itself. And, yeah, I mean, a lot of my writing in all of these films, particularly as regards women, is about this.
And I think that we can find in some of your films is character challenging to the other.
Characters challenging?
Being challenged by another character that comes and makes them bring out of them in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Has it ever happened to you, something of the kind?
Well, probably all the time, in less sensational ways than in The Girl from Monday, of course. But in a way, I think what you're describing, this thing that, you know, one person's existence challenges the other person's existence, has to do with my interest in responsibility. Like, you know, we're responsible for each other. I mean, responsibility doesn't mean anything really. Self-responsibility doesn't really mean anything to me. When I think of responsibility, I'm thinking of a responsibility for someone else. Like, I might make an action that I think is my own private concern, but that action may have consequences for other people, and I have to, you know, and I really can't get out of that.
Tus trailers, visita
I
mi
think that's
canal.
fascinating. I think that's what makes us people.
But in that way, it is related with the story of Henry Full. And this guy coming to get into this place, meeting this guy who supposedly is retarded, but he's the one who takes him to win the Nobel Prize.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in a way, all of my movies are like that. I mean, I just think that in Girl from Monday, it's most explicit. It's really about that, our responsibility for each other. But in Henry Fool, yes, of course, Henry is this force that comes into a community where everybody's disconnected. And he, one way or another, he always creates these little problems that forces people to work together, or at least argue.
Don't you think it is frustrating? Like, Henry Fool, he's the one who really wants to be a writer. Then he meets Grimm, and he makes him write. And he's the one getting the recognition, while he doesn't even get published his memoirs. Is that frustrating? In what way could it be rewarding?
I just thought it was, it had a lot of comic and dramatic potential. That was my idea of Henry, that he would be somebody who can cause other people to act, but he himself had a very hard time acting, doing something, getting something done. I thought that was, I don't have a particular example of anybody or anything from my own personal life to underline that. It's just, it seemed very normal. It seemed like something that probably happens a lot in the world.
You know, there are certain people who can talk a great deal about literature but never write, or you know, you find people all the time who will tell you everything about what a good film is or what a bad film is, but you know, they don't make films, which they don't have to make films either. But this I felt was particularly it was sad and funny at the same time, which I like. So it's rich. This is a guy who claims to have quite large ambitions, but he can't really. He doesn't have the discipline to actually sit down and work.
But something curious about Henry is that while he provokes this poetry writing in the Green Character, he seems to be ready all the time to have sex with every woman there. I mean, with the mother, with the sister.
Yeah.
So, in what way does it mean that he's ready to give pleasure or to search for the pleasure of the others?
Well, he's an addictive person. He's like, he drinks too much, he smokes too much, he drinks too much coffee, he has too much sex, he doesn't know when to shut up.
Why did you look at me that way?
Yeah, he's a type of character. Actually, I think there's a long history of these types of characters in literature and movies. And we love them, they're clowns.
Trailers.
But this is a
Visita
clown
mi
who
canal.
is in fact very erudite. He's read a lot of things, he knows a lot of things, and he's a good teacher. But he's a slob.
Do you think Dostoevsky would like Henry Fool?
Well, it depends. Before Dostoevsky became really conservatively religious, maybe. When he was like really a gambler and a drinker, maybe he would have loved Henry.
Henry Fool had never been released before in Spain, and now it's coming on DVD. Are you excited about that?
Yeah, I hope people enjoy it, you know. Yeah, because you can see Faye Grimm or Henry Fool first. It doesn't really matter. They're connected, but they're not necessarily sequential. So.
What happened in the way for, I don't know, I mean, I was about to say all of a sudden, but I don't know the process, so it was presumptuous of me. But what made you go back to Henry Fool and work about Faye Grimm?
When I wrote Henry Fool, when I was writing Henry Fool in the mid-90s, I knew I was writing part of a story that was much bigger. And so there was always that feeling that it would be a bigger story. But I chose not to commit to, you know, making, in the 90s, saying this is going to be a trilogy or something. But it was always in my mind, and...
so could you say that? Could you say that now? Do you think it could become a trilogy?
Yeah, it will become a trilogy. It will become a trilogy. I mean, I'm writing the third part now.
What about the son?
It would be about the son, yeah. The third part will be about the son. The son and the father up there. But what really, after about 3 years after Henry Fool was done, I really began putting together ideas for stories. And then I spoke to Parker. I really wanted to make a movie for Parker. We had known each other and worked together off and on for years, but I had never found the role that was really right for her, and you know, I just thought she was one of the best actresses I've ever worked with. So it was a big ambition of mine to make a movie for her that was her from beginning to end, top to bottom. And believe it or not, it didn't occur to me very quickly that it should be this character of Faye from Henry Fool. But then I started thinking about it, and I called her in 2002, in April of 2002, and I asked her if she would be interested in redoing Faye if I wrote it, because I wasn't going to write it if she didn't want to do it. So she said, yeah, and I started writing.
If she had said no, would you have written the script?
If she had said no.
Can you think that you could have done Faye Grimm without Parker?
No.
I wouldn't have had the interest, really.
You're about to release the film in the Spanish theaters after quite a while, because it's been quite a while that you haven't released, that your films have not been released in Spain. How do you feel about that?
I feel good about that. Yeah, I'm happy.
Because visiting Spain, is it a country you like?
I like Spain a lot. I've been here about 5 or 6 times now, and yeah.
With Grim, that's something I feel about your films that I hadn't felt that much before. I mean, as for me, it is the most political of your films. Is that right for you?
Yeah, although I might say it differently, it's sort of a film where there's more politics in it. I don't know if the film has an identifiable politics, like, you know, the difference. It's not a film made as politics. It's a film about people. It's a piece of fiction about people in a world where politics is very much a part of everybody's life. And a large part of the story is Faye trying to inform herself or let other people help her learn what the politics are all about.
But through Faye, we again see the contrast of different cultures. Like when it comes to Europe, how different is it for you? I mean, the difference.
Well, the way
difference between America and Europe.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Faye is the representative of a certain type of American who's a good person, but uninformed
visita mi canal.
about the wide world. And it's we kind of move out into the world with Faye, and we experience the world and you know, particularly foreign policy of many different countries, and just how complex and dangerous the world can be.
But do you think that being uninformed is how do I put this? Something quite common to find in the States?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty common situation.
Coming out of? Like why people are not interested in being more informed?
Well, it's mostly media monopoly and an education, you know, system which kind of educates people to not be informed, because the more people know, this is Chomsky, pure Chomsky, but you know, the more intelligent people are, the harder it is to get them to vote for you, and the more challenging they'll be to the newspapers and the television stations, which, you know, because they have a vested interest in the people not contesting what they say. So they don't really want the people that informed.
And at the same time, looking at it from outside, because obviously I'm European, do you think as well it could be a question of being so self-centered?
Well, yeah, that's being self-centered is a result of being uninformed, because you don't know that there's another. I mean, I find, you know, most of the Americans I meet are curious about things. When you turn them on to something, if you drag them out of their house and brought them to Gijón, they'd be fascinated. You know, but it's such a big country and it's such a powerful country, and it is organized to not really look out at the rest of the world. So that's why I wanted to make a character like Faye who would who's curious and, you know, wonder-struck about everything. But she's basically a good person, and you know, when all this, you know, there's a lot of fascinating stuff out there in the world, but there's also like a lot of horrifying stuff, and she trusts her instincts. There's an enormous amount of duplicity and lies that she encounters, but ultimately she does what she thinks is the right thing. And I'd like to think that she's like more important than John Wayne in that way.
And as a last question for finishing this interview, if you had the choice, if you had the chance of writing the motto in your tombstone, what would you like it to say?
Stay tuned. Yeah. To be continued.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's great. Thank you.